everyone, this is Carol, and welcome to Speakerman Speaks Retail, where we navigate retail from now to next through my latest retail trajectories and interviews with industry experts who help us chart the course. Regular listeners know that one of my top retail trajectories is that the store is the core in 2024. Retailers are swinging attention and investment back to brick and mortar for lots of reasons. Stores are a great live testing ground for all kinds of customer-facing technology, not to mention next-level store associate tools. And as part of that, the old fallback mantra that not everything that matters can be measured is fading fast. The fact is, all kinds of in-store activity can not only be measured these days, but tracked and acted on in real time. My guest, Joe Shasteen, is the Global Manager of Advanced Analytics at RetailNext. Joe and his team help retailers design and test the impact of all those changes happening in brick and mortar to take shopper experience to new heights. RetailNext is the first retail IoT platform to bring the kind of high-level shopper analytics we're used to seeing in the e-commerce world right into physical stores. More than 560 retailers in over 95 countries count on RetailNext analytics software and their retail smarts to better understand the shopper journey, boost same-store sales, keep theft in check, and just have their stores running like well-oiled machines. I can't wait to dive into all of this with Joe, so let's get started. Hey, Joe, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for being on Speakerman Speaks Retail.
Great. Thank you for having me.
We had talked, of course, before the interview, and something really stuck with me after our conversation. I started thinking about the term path to purchase. That was a term that's been around for a really long time in retail. It was central to the shopper marketing movement. Just the idea that you could track the shopper journey was a pretty novel idea back in the day, and everybody was really excited about it. But RetailNext has coined a new term that to me feels like it might be an update to that. You call it full path analysis. Can you tell me more about that and how it might speak to new possibilities or new capabilities or how they've evolved?
Yeah, definitely. Technology for in-store analytics has really come a long way to better mirror the types of analytics that can be more easily provided in the e-commerce or online space, right? So it's very easy to get metrics around clicks and impressions in the online space. But up until relatively recently, it had been tough to get metrics around kind of the middle or the top of the funnel for the brick and mortar space. So that's really what RetailNext aims to provide with the full path analysis. RetailNext is able to put multiple sensors strategically placed throughout a retail space. And with those sensors, we're able to understand more about the overall shopper journey. So when a shopper enters the store, where are they first going? What is capturing their attention? What are they bypassing? What are they stopping and engaging with? And we're really able to do this to provide more details for our retailers so they can understand the middle and the top of the funnel. What are those behaviors that are really driving that purchasing behavior in a customer? And what can be maybe adjusted to tweak that customer journey if it might not be meeting expectations? How can we use the data that we get from a full path data to better optimize that journey and better give customers the experience that retailers intend for them to have in a traditional brick and mortar space? With RetailNext data in the full path, we're really aiming to be the pulse of the store, really allowing our retailers to understand the full journey, not just when somebody makes a purchase, but from the moment they enter a store, and even in some instances, from the moment they pass by on the outside of a store, to understand more about customer behavior and that overall customer journey that's ultimately going to drive purchase and drive conversion for our retailers. What is first capturing customers' attention? Where are they first dwelling? What is the best type of fixture or fixture layout to help display product, but also staff journey, where your associates are best able to interact with customers on the floor, where are customers spending time that maybe associates currently maybe not spending as much time as they should be, so you can provide additional guidance to associates so that they know where can they best meet the customer where they're at and really help engage them and have the customer understand the brand and connect with the brand a little bit better, ultimately driving that final conversion or that final point of sale that we want to see.
When you talk about those sensors around the store, are those just completely invisible? And do store associates know that they're there?
If you know to look for them, you can see them, but there are ways that we can recess mount them or hide them there. But everything that we do is completely private, right? We're not collecting any personally identifiable information. Everything is turned into anonymous data that we're able to aggregate and provide details. So yes, I mean, people would be aware that they're there, but it's no different than any sort of security cameras or anything like that. People, I think, are pretty understanding that at this point, when you enter a retail store, you are likely to be on camera. But again, everything that we are capturing is all completely anonymous.
What types of retailers and brands do you guys mostly work with? Are there certain characteristics or goals that they tend to have in common?
It kind of goes to 2 points. So RetailNext both provides data on the full path analysis journey, but we also do more traditional retailer metrics around just store traffic in and out of the store. That can be the complete range of retailers, right? From small kind of digitally native brands that are just opening their first physical store to larger retailers, national retailers, worldwide retailers across all different segments, apparel, health and beauty, jewelry, footwear, where they might have hundreds, if not thousands of stores, not only in the US, but even worldwide. So just anybody who's really interested in trying to improve the efficiency of their store with driving more conversion, right? You don't understand the true opportunity of a physical store location until you understand the traffic and how many people are actually coming in and converting, but also not converting. And how can you drive additional conversion for those customers who are coming in and at this point, not making that purchase. So it's really trying to connect with that maybe missing point that previously you wouldn't have if you don't have store traffic in and out. But then also for the FPA side of things, that is a little bit more of a customer who's probably more interested in kind of the test and learning aspect in a retail environment, testing out new fixtures, new signage. But it's really vital for those customers who are really in that mindset of making a change, seeing if it's a positive or negative impact, and then either rolling it out to the larger fleet or, maybe taking a step back, reconsidering what they're trying to do, and then maybe testing again another option that might be more successful before maybe a larger fleet-wide rollout, which can be very expensive if a mistake is made there. Maybe rethink that and make sure that it is successful before rolling that out across hundreds of or thousands of stores.
Yeah, that's really relevant right now to be able to drill down on that and figure out what's working and what's not working. In some cases, have the opportunity to deconstruct that and parlay it into other locations, or maybe just learn from it and apply it someplace else.
Yeah, I mean, that's the core reason for having a full path analysis in a retail lab, is to do that testing and learning, really enable that middle top of the funnel metrics around your store traffic, around your zone traffic, your area traffic. What is actually just pass by areas to the store versus which parts of the store are actually getting customers to stop and engage. And then again, providing that additional guidance to associates or training to associates on where they should be getting out to really interact with customers. So there's a lot of value that can be driven from the test and learn environments using retail labs. And there's a lot of different sorts of metrics that you can look at. If you see a fixture that's maybe placed towards the back of the store and doesn't get a lot of people getting there typically because it's towards the back of the store, of course, but maybe you see that it engages those customers who make it there. Maybe try testing out moving it towards the front of the store where there's a lot more pass-by traffic. How does that drive maybe any incremental sales of product off of that? And kind of conversely, if you see a fixture that's maybe towards the front getting a lot of pass-by but not really driving a lot of engagement, moving that to maybe an area towards the back of the store where if people want it, they're going to be looking for it and they're going to be trying to find it. But maybe it's not something that's leading to impulse purchases. So maybe it doesn't need to be so top of mind for every customer. So lots of different things that you can really start to test and look through when you're seeing not just what the bottom line sales are for certain products or certain fixtures, but that traffic, that dwell, kind of those portions that are leading to the sale, not just the lagging indicator of the sale itself.
I bet the merchandising teams go crazy with this data.
Yeah, there's a lot merchandising and operations too, kind of, especially when we're talking about staffing and labor allocation. There's a lot of great use cases for full path analysis data that way.
Speaking of test and learn, in-store automation is a hot topic right now, and it's very polarizing. Some customers love it, but others just actively oppose it. Retailers have been really anxious in some cases to roll out these fully automated formats, but they've had to tap on the brakes, reintroduce people power, and take it one step at a time just because of the pushback from consumers. So what's your take on that, Joe? And how do you guys get involved with these automation experiments?
Yes, we've actually seen a lot of new technologies piloted in retail lab locations. Two of the major ones, one of them, as you mentioned, was the self-checkout option. Another one that we work with maybe a little bit less often is kind of adding the mobile POS option. A third one that's also been fairly interesting more recently is around queue alerting technologies. So I can talk about that in a little bit. But I think to go back to your initial point around self-checkout, we've really seen that self-checkout can be a powerful tool to maybe address long lines or long queues. But for the most part, what we really do see is that when given an option, customers still like to have that personal touch of actually interacting with an associate, being checked out by them, maybe talking to them, learning more about the brand, learning more about other complementary products, certain things like that. We do see that self-checkout can be powerful and a very helpful tool for alleviating some long queues as you really see those long lines. But in the end, I think completely abandoning the regular checkout method and going back to the self-checkout only, we don't find that, at least at this point, seems to be the effective way to go, as many customers are still looking, again, for that personal touch and will oftentimes be choosing that regular checkout over the self-checkout when given an opportunity and there's not a long queue.
Yeah, and the technology has to be pretty perfect also to pull that off, because not having humans at the ready, that's a big leap.
Yes, definitely. But, at the same time, there are some uses for it. But again, I think to completely abandon regular checkout is a little bit of a ways off for now. Another technology point I wanted to mention that we've been seeing is the queue alerting piece. So being able to really understand, maybe you don't have self-checkout, but you might have additional registers that you can open up, or you can move customers to a different cash wrap, maybe not the main one, maybe there's one 15, 20 feet away that you can open up, using the full path analysis technology to understand length of queues or occupancy of queues or average wait times. And based on what we're seeing from those times, starting to trigger alerts and send those out to associates to let them know, hey, there's X amount of people in the line, they're waiting on average for Y amount of minutes. We should open up a new register. And then that can help to alleviate that line if you are going through a different technology other than the self-checkout route, more traditional, opening up a new queue. It makes it easier and more of an automated way to generate some of these insights and open it up rather than needing to have a store manager or someone always oversight on that line. We have some automated methodologies where we can do this a little bit easier now. And that's shown to be very effective as well in that queue line alleviation or reducing that wait time.
So they're receiving these alerts in real time.
Yes, there are options for receiving real-time alerting using sometimes RetailNext data or third-party platforms as well.
Great. Talking about convenience, because at the end of the day, a lot of this just centers around convenience. And there's so many convenience options now. Retailers have realized that convenience and choice are basically synonymous. Now you've got curbside pickup, you've got in-store pickup, home delivery, and so on. But as you talked about earlier, retailers are still now more than ever invested in having customers come to their stores and their physical locations, and for a lot of reasons. But how do they know when their strategies to drive shoppers to their stores are paying off? You talked about tracking conversion. I'd like to learn more about that. How do you track conversion and marry maybe some of the POS data or data that's provided by retailers with the traffic data and come to these conclusions?
Yeah, definitely. And to go back to your point about kind of the multiple options for convenience, I think especially what we've seen maintain over as we've gotten a few years out of the pandemic, curbside was pretty big initially. We've really seen curbside fall off a bit. BOPIS is still quite a big aspect. A lot of people coming in for BOPIS. But, curbside, I would say, is something that's a little bit more rare. So we're not seeing as much utilization of that. But really, a lot of our retailers are very focused on making that BOPIS journey, getting customers into the store, as you mentioned. It's very valuable to get customers in the store because, as we've seen from some research recently as well, that customers expect the store to be more than just a place to transact. If they just want to make a transaction, again, you could buy online just as easily. So if you want to go into the store, you're expecting a little bit of a different experience, right? Whether that's working with a knowledgeable associate to learn more about the brand, maybe to touch and feel the product, to try it on, right? All those different options. So it's really important from that standpoint for when customers are coming into the store, whether it be for BOPIS or whether it be for that experience, that we're able to measure success of that journey, right? So one of the ways that we can do that is by looking at conversion rate, like you mentioned. So that's just taking your sales transactions over a period of time and looking at the total amount of people that came into the store, marrying that with your BOPIS data, just so you understand how many of these people actually came in to maybe do a buy online, pick up in store, or how many people maybe came in to do a return. So you can factor that a bit into your conversion rate. But overall, once you get a customer in the store, in most cases, that is an opportunity to connect with them and either provide another conversion opportunity or a complimentary purchase or an upsell, increase their basket. I would say measuring that conversion rate is really important, kind of setting baselines of conversion rates or sales metrics before new tests are implemented or new BOPIS strategies are implemented. And then from there, setting the standard of how it looks after. Are we seeing a trend line shift? Does it seem like this is resonating with customers and leading to additional conversion, or is it leading to a higher basket as well? So that's one way of kind of doing it traditionally. But to go back to full path analysis, what we can also do with that data is we can understand when people are coming in, maybe going straight to the area for BOPUS or straight to the area for returns. We look at then ratios of how many of them look like they continue to shop, right? How many of them continue to go into different portions of the store? Are there certain incentives that can be made for people coming in for a return? Are there slight discounts that can be offered? If you come in for a return, you have 2-week window with like a 5% discount on a sale, something like that. How is that driving additional shopping behavior? Versus then looking at abandonment rates as well. So looking at how many customers come in just for that return, just for that BOPUS pickup, and leave immediately. Now, maybe that's not considered abandonment rate, but you can still look and see what are these different shopper behaviors that are taking place after that BOPUS, after that return, and just understand, is that strategy working? Is it moving the needle? Is it getting more shopping behavior, or is it not? And from there, then you can pivot and change strategies, change training of associates, try to test out new ways to drive additional shopping behavior, which ultimately will hopefully lead to more conversion.
It sounds like the best results would come from retailers sharing more data with you. So are you finding that they're open to that they're anxious to even do that to get better results and drill down and get more granular with the insights?
Yeah, in many cases, I would say there lots of customers are very interested in sharing that point of sale data, really trying to understand not only conversion at the store level, but even conversion at a fixture level. So I've got all these products on there. How many dwells am I having in these particular areas, and how many sales are these dwells leading to? How many dwells do I typically need? Does maybe a lot of dwells with no sales, is it difficult for customers to understand what is being offered by that fixture? So maybe do we need to rethink it? Do we need to simplify things? There's lots of different metrics that can be generated based on customers providing their point of sale data and also marrying that up with the in-store analytics data around traffic and dwells and shopping behavior.
Workforce management, which I think you just alluded to a minute ago, and sort of optimizing the way associates are utilized in the store and that trade-off between high tech and high touch and when you should deploy one or the other. How does RetailNext support that piece of the business? And especially when retailers are so determined to drive this relentless productivity out of the stores that they do decide to open?
Yeah, I would say kind of going along with the point of sale data that is often one of the core functions of just having store traffic in and out with RetailNext, but also the labor allocation. So it's also very easy for customers to provide labor data. So punch in, punch out data, clock in, clock out data. And from there, we can look at and layer that up against the traffic that's coming into the store during those hours. And from many retailers, much experience kind of running this, looking at correlations between what we refer to as our shopper per labor hour ratio. So a lower shopper per labor hour ratio means more staff for every customer that's in store. We typically will find that a lower SPLH, as we refer to it, will lead to a higher conversion rate. So they're inversely correlated. As you drive down your shopper per labor hour ratio, you drive up your conversion rate. And there's a fairly strong correlation between those two metrics. So that's something that we're oftentimes working with our retailers on, of finding those windows of time where maybe there's a regular Wednesday at 3 where we see that surprisingly there's more traffic than you would expect, but your labor is a little bit lower. So are we able to maybe not add labor, but reallocate labor from maybe Wednesday morning and have them come in a little bit later? So really trying to be, to some degree, a net zero. So we're not trying to add or reduce. We're just trying to reallocate based on the trends that we're seeing. And that can oftentimes be a really effective way of helping to drive up a few incremental points in conversion during certain times of the day. And that's something that again, we've seen there's a really good correlation between that SPLH and that conversion rate. Now, if you have fewer shoppers for every associate, maybe that extra couple people can now interact. They're now getting their questions answered and they're not leaving the store frustrated. Instead, they're converting and driving up that conversion rate that we see.
Well, and I think that could ripple out to better employee satisfaction because they're more productive. They're not feeling like they're just sitting on their hands when they're at work and they're doing what they were hired to do.
Definitely. This data is intended to be shared. Our retailers can choose with how far they want to share this data kind of in their organization, whether it's staying more at headquarters or if they want to bring it down to the store managers really arm their fleet with this data. But it's really intended to be provided, to be a useful tool for the people on the ground in the store to really drive that greater efficiency. When you get a customer in store, this is your opportunity. You want to connect with them in the way that you're intending to. So that's really what the goal is for this. And that's a really important piece of both the full path analysis data, but just even traffic and labor data, and kind of really marrying those two together and understanding relationships between those two data points.
How can you make sure that the right people are getting the right information at the right time? And maybe even more importantly, how can you ensure that they act on it in enough time? Because, of course, there are lots of different workers within a store. There's store managers and others. How do you disseminate that information in a way that it becomes actionable?
Yeah, so within RetailNext, we have a UI that's updated basically in real time so that this data can be provided to whoever has access. And there's no limitations on who has access to the data. It's all up to the retailers themselves. And from there, it's partnering with them, trying to understand their goals, what they're trying to do, what are the metrics that they're trying to improve upon. And then from there, working with the people who are going to be actually driving those metrics, who's going to be in the store, actually having the most impact on the day-to-day growth for whether it's conversion, whether it's ATV, whether it's just overall bottom line sales, working with them, providing some of the best practices that we've seen around how to drive those behaviors, but then also just kind of partnering up with our retailers as well, understanding what their traditional training methods are. Are there any tweaks? Are there any other changes to their operations that they might use to better utilize this data? We really try to partner very closely with our retailers and provide as much help and as guidance as they want.
Let's talk about one more big challenge in retail. There's a lot of upside to what we're talking about, but shrink. There's been so many headlines, whether you're talking about organized retail crime, petty theft, lots of headlines out there, lots of big stories. And now you've got retailers actually putting numbers to it to the tune of millions of dollars and being very open about the impact it's having on their bottom lines. The exciting thing is there's a lot of great new technology that's getting ready to just flood into brick and mortar, and it's going to make shopping so much, I think, more exciting and obviously more quantifiable, as we've been talking about. And I think a lot of that technology, though, will be directed in some way toward asset protection. But nobody has seemed to come up with a singular solution to it. I think everyone understands that it takes a combination of solutions. So I'd love to learn what RetailNext is doing on that front. Is there anything that you guys are doing to help mitigate that problem that just doesn't seem to be going away?
Definitely, yes. We do have an asset protection offering as well, using our Aurora sensor, the same thing that we would use in our full path analysis or our kind of entrance traffic or entrance traffic in, entrance traffic out metrics. And these Auroras will store video so that if you need to go back and pull an event to see what was going on, if you need for filing police reports or data like that. We also have some AI that's able to determine what we will call like a shopper not present. So if there is internal theft going on where transactions are being rung up, but we're not seeing customers on the customer side of the cash wrap, those times can be flagged and it can be very easily just checked. Okay, yeah, this is normal, we expect this, or actually this is a little bit surprising what's going on here. Our platform can provide many data points around both the video of finding the events, but also trying to identify instances of potential shrink and more easily able to flag that. So whoever is responsible for identifying this can easily go through all countless hours of video more quickly by just seeing some options that we've already flagged for them where it looks like there might be some suspicious behavior.
That's great. That definitely sounds like a big part of the solution. I can imagine that with over 560 retailers in 95 countries, do I have that right?
Yeah. Yes.
With that being your customer base and with RetailNext supporting so many of these different opportunities and yes, challenges that we've talked about, you've probably gained a lot of insight, and I would think there'd be some big picture takeaways that might be valuable to the industry. Are there any trends that you're seeing, Joe, that you think are really important or directional?
Yeah, I think it probably goes back right now to the labor allocation and the staffing piece. One thing that I think is important is that trying to start to allocate labor based more on traffic in trends as opposed to sales transaction trends, I think can be a very valuable tool because it really lets you know what was the opportunity to make a sale versus if you're staffing based off of sales transactions, that's already the point at which a sale was made. So if you're staffing to that and you already had maybe an hour where your labor was underallocated for that time and that led to the low sales transactions, you can get into a cycle of you're continuing to allocate labor at a much lower level than the opportunity if you were looking at traffic would suggest. So I think That's one thing that can be very useful, is starting to look at traffic and allocate labor based off of the leading indicator of traffic as opposed to the sales transactions. And then taking that a step further and using the full path analysis data and also the shopper per labor hour trends and correlating those with conversion, but using that full path analysis data to provide more guidance around, we're seeing that a lot of customers are spending time in this area of the store, and we're not seeing associates spend as much time. So providing more guidance around what are those key areas of the store that seem to be really resonating with customers, where maybe staff are just not getting out there right now. Maybe there's too many people at the queue or at the cash wrap queue. They have to be spending all their time behind the point of sale area getting people checked out. So what can we do to maybe alleviate some of that, get associates out on the floor a little bit more to really interact and engage and hopefully drive that additional conversion or drive that additional purchase of another complementary item, providing that overall experience that customers are looking for when they come into the store. Because again, they're not looking to just make a transaction if they come into the store. They want something else to connect with the brand, to connect with an associate who's knowledgeable, all those other details. And arming the associates with that information is a really valuable way to help drive those incremental behaviors that is going to improve the bottom line for a physical store.
That's interesting because it's one thing to have the actual bodies in the store, but they need to be where they need to be to interact with the customers. And it seems really straightforward, but I'm sure sometimes they're not even really aware where those opportunities are to really pour it on in certain areas of the store that can have a lot more impact.
Exactly. I mean, especially when things get busy, whether it's the cash wrap queue, fitting rooms being busy, there's a lot of things going on and lots of potential missed opportunities to really engage with customers when they're actually in the shopping portion of their journey rather than in the try-on or the checkout portion of their journey.
Are there ways that you make this type of data available outside of your customer base?
Not the full path analysis data, but we do have benchmarking data that we can provide to customers as well that is very useful for understanding not only how yourself is doing if you're looking at your own traffic data, but how is the market doing? And based on what you're seeing in the market, can just provide some additional context. Maybe you're down a few percentage points in traffic, but the market's down a little bit more. Can maybe just provide some sense as to, okay, that's just normal, that's what we're going through, but we need to try to drive strategies to be more efficient with the traffic that we're getting, really focusing on those customers, really providing that experience. Our performance pulse is a metric that we update on our dashboard on a weekly basis. And we also have a monthly report that we update on our website as well that provides some key trends from both a traffic perspective as well as a macroeconomic perspective of what we're seeing in the US. And as you can imagine, over the last couple of months, it's been a very heavy inflation related.
So how can people access those reports?
There's our website. There is also a dashboard. Just provide your email address. We can provide these links as well that can be shared. But yeah, those reports are available to the public just based on email. And then you have access to all of that wealth of data.
That's great. And you guys are a truly global company. So you're talking about a pretty nice representation on a global basis.
Most of our metrics are US based. We have expanded to provide some higher level metrics around Europe, the UK, the Middle East as well. We are always looking to expand. And then if there are any questions around additional data segmentations or additional cuts, me and my team, the advanced analytics team at RetailNext, is always very happy to engage in those conversations and see what other details that we might be able to provide that would be useful.
Great. This has been such a great conversation. We've covered a lot of ground. Obviously, RetailNext covers a lot of ground with retailers and brands. What's next?
It's really around the overall in-store journey optimization. I think there's been a lot of questions around the offline-online convergence. So I think that's been a key thing, still trying to use data sets that can help provide more insight into that aspect of the customer journey. But I think it also comes down to something that I mentioned before, is it's using the store as not just a place to transact, but a place for customers to connect with the brand and to learn more. It really needs to be a way for the retailer to derive what they want that customer journey to look like and to try to set up the store in a way that is going to lead to that most efficient customer journey, to tell that brand story, to get the messaging across. And using RetailNext data or other in-store analytics providers' data, it's really a valuable way to get insight into things that you've never been able to get insight into, but that the online space has had insight into basically since inception. That's where we're at, is just driving more around that shopper journey, more around the efficiency of that, and understanding more about the online and offline behaviors. But really, it's all about that in-store experience and really enabling customers to better connect with the brand and the products that that brand offers.
Well, that's exciting. And I have to believe that all of that work, as it continues, will just make it better for everyone, make it better for shoppers, better for retailers. It's not just about their bottom lines. I think it is going to improve the overall experience that we're all having in stores.
Yep, that's what it's all about, is improving that experience for customers to drive that additional loyalty. Maybe their experience was so good, they're going to be coming back multiple times, and you're going to have a customer for years rather than just a one-time purchaser.
You bet. That's the goal. Thank you for being with me today, Joe. It was really great talking to you, getting some updates on all the excitement that's happening in brick and mortar and where things might go next. I think it's going to be a really interesting holiday shopping season, in particular with tools like this available. I think we're going to see some really exciting things in brick and mortar. So thank you so much for being with me, and I'll look forward to following your progress.
Thank you so much for having me.
To learn more about the work that RetailNext is doing to optimize the in-store experience and to check out their latest performance pulse reports and other great insights and updates, visit RetailNext.net. And you can connect with Joe on LinkedIn, Joe Shasteen. You can bring conversations like this to life in your spaces. Just reach out to team@speakermanretail.com to book a discovery call. And if you like what you're hearing, please do like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms. Until next time.